Here's the biggest mistake investors make when choosing mid-cap funds. We pick the fund which is given more returns on paper, but in reality, the same fund can actually give you less money compared to a fund with smaller returns. Sounds impossible, right? In mid-cap specifically, this happens way more often than you think, and yet every single best mid-cap fund video on the internet starts the exact same way. You open a screener, sort by 10-year returns, then sort by top to bottom. Finally, pick the top few funds. I'm going to show you why that one click, sort by highest return, is actually the wrong way to choose a mid-cap fund. Then I'll show you what the math says and how you should actually be picking a fund. Spoiler alert, it's the opposite of what feels right. Hi, I'm Arunima and you're watching How Bizarre. So let's begin. Let's start with first understanding what mid-cap funds even are. SEBI says a mid-cap fund must put at least 65% of its money into mid-cap companies. And mid-cap means the 101st to 250th largest listed companies in India by market value. This list is changed every 6 months by AMFI. So, the 100th company is a large cap, but the 101st one is a mid cap. The only difference between them is one rank on a spreadsheet. These are the companies that aren't small, but they aren't giant either, which is exactly why people love them. Over most rolling 10-year periods, the Nifty Midcap 150 has compounded at roughly 15% a year versus around 11% for the Nifty 50. That's almost 4 percentage points a year every year for a decade. The gap is very real, and it's why your portfolio probably has a mid-cap fund in it. Here's the trap. When a video sorts funds by 10-year returns and picks the top 5, what is it actually measuring? It's measuring what happened in the past. Specifically, it's measuring what happened in a particular window. When you sort by 10-year return, you're judging a fund by one single snapshot. It's like rating a restaurant based on the one meal you happen to have there. Maybe that day the chef was in a great mood. One visit doesn't tell you if the food is consistently good. In this situation, then, rolling returns fixes this by looking at every possible 3 or 5 year window over the last decade. It's not focused on one arbitrary start and end date, but there are hundreds of overlapping periods. A fund that looks great when you sort a list by the last 10 years might rank 5th if you shifted that one window by just 2 years. But what about a fund that beats its benchmark across most of its windows or time periods? That's not just luck, it's a pattern. And a pattern is what you need when you can even think about making investing decisions. Honestly speaking, a real test of picking funds would involve going back to, say, 2015. Then, basis studying the numbers at that point in time, applying your rules and seeing what you would have picked back then. This is assuming you don't know what will happen after that. Then, you actually check to see if that analysis worked. Almost nobody does this because it's hard and because it sometimes makes your favorite fund look bad. So, if sort by highest return is the wrong instinct, how do we actually filter funds? Before that, we need to understand two fundas. Funda number one, crashing less beats growing more. Let me explain. Mid caps don't just go up more, they fall much harder. And recovering from a fall is mathematically much tougher than what most people think. Like, take a look at this example. In the 2020 COVID crash, the Nifty Midcap 150 fell around 40% from its January peak. The Nifty 50 fell close to 38%. In the 2018 correction, mid caps lost over 30% over the next 18 months, while large caps stayed far more contained. And during the 2008 financial crisis, mid caps dropped nearly 60% in a single year. Now, here's a part that you need to pay attention to. If a fund falls 50%, it doesn't just need to gain 50% to become even, it actually needs to gain 100%. So, a 42% fall needs a 72% gain just to break even. A 30% fall needs 43% uptick to be able to break even. The bigger the fall, the harder it is to get back up. To explain it better, let's say fund A goes up 60%. So your 100 rupees that you'd invested becomes 160 rupees. Then it crashes 35%. So you're left with 104 rupees. Now compare this with fund B that goes up 40%. Your 100 rupees becomes 140 rupees. Then it falls 20%, which means you're left with 112 rupees. Both funds made you money, but fund B left you with 112 rupees and fund A left you with 104 rupees, even though fund A had a bigger bull run. When you plot the best returns leaderboard during a bull run, Fund A wins every time and gets the most number of YouTube thumbnails. But across the whole cycle, including the crash, Fund B can finish ahead because it never had to climb out of that deep hole. It spent less time recovering and more time compounding. This is the delta. Everyone buys mid caps for the upside, but in the one category that falls the hardest, the fund that protects the downside often wins the long game, even while showing a lower number in the returns column that you were sorting by. The metric that captures this isn't return, it's called downside capture. How much of a market's fall is absorbed by a fund? A fund that drops less than its index when things go bad is doing the single most valuable thing a mid cap fund can do. And a lot of investors like you and me end up missing this because we're actually sorting by the wrong metric. Funda number two, funds can bloat too. The second funda seems a little bit weird because it means a fund can be punished for being too good. Here's how it works. Let's say a mid-cap fund does amazingly well. Word spreads and more people start investing in it. The fund that was managing 2000 crore rupees is now managing 25,000 crore rupees. Sounds like a success story, right? Except mid-cap stocks are illiquid. There just aren't that many shares that get traded. When a tiny fund wants to buy its favorite mid-cap stock, it does that transaction without moving the market. But when a giant fund tries to buy the same stock, it's so big that it's in fact pushing up the price at which it's buying before even the total transaction gets finished. That's the same problem in reverse when it sells. The fund just becomes too heavy to maneuver. So what does the bloated fund do? It can't deploy all that cash into its top picks of mid-cap stocks anymore. They're just too illiquid. So it starts parking money in bigger, more liquid, more large cap names just to put that money somewhere. That's the catch. The fund that you had picked for sharp mid-cap stock picking has suddenly become a secret large cap fund wearing a mid-cap label. You're basically paying mid-cap fees for large cap exposure. So the same inflows that the fund's success had attracted actually throttle its future returns. Now here you might say, but hey, wasn't there a rule that 65% of the money has to be invested in mid-caps? But that 35% is where that bloat actually starts happening. Money gets pushed into large caps, cash, or liquid instruments. Even in that 65%, the bloated fund can't be as picky. They end up deploying money into more number of mid-cap stocks than they ordinarily would have. So they're going to go for the third tier or even fourth tier ideas just to put the cash somewhere. As a result, even the mid-cap portion gets diluted. Now, how big is too big when it comes to the fund size? ऐसा कोई ऑफिशियल डेफिनेशन तो नहीं है, बट मैनेजर्स एंड एनालिस्ट हैव फ्लैग्ड दैट मिड कैप फंड्स टेंड टू स्टार्ट स्ट्रगलिंग समवेयर व्हेन द AUM साइज गोज हायर देन अराउंड 20,000 crore rupees. एंड ये मैं हवा में नहीं बोल रही हूँ. सेबी लिटरली फोर्स्ड फंड हाउसेस टू रन पब्लिक स्ट्रेस टेस्ट टू सी how many days it would take a fund to liquidate its portfolio in a panic situation. The bigger the funds and more mid cap and small cap heavy, the worse that number was. Before we carry on with the rest of the episode, I just wanted to come here and say that a lot of people come to me with queries around how to be an effective communicator, how to speak confidently on stage or in front of a camera, and what to do when things go wrong. So for this, I have built a course along with upskills.club on how to be an effective communicator, and in this, there is no theory, only practical knowledge drawn from my own lived experience. I'll be covering a range of topics, things like in the first 30 seconds, what can you do that will make or break your presence? What are some body language mistakes that most people oversee? Or how to rehearse without sounding scripted. So yes, this is loaded with a lot of hands-on learning, a lot of tips on how to sound natural in front of a camera. And if you want to be an effective communicator in 2026, then this is a course for you. Check it out, the link is in the description. Now, back to the episode. Okay, so how do you filter funds? Let me actually do the filtering here because it takes just 90 seconds and you can try it yourself. Over here, I have a mutual fund screener open. The first step is picking the category, equity mid-cap. This gives me the whole universe of about 30 funds. Now, every video on the internet does this next, which is they sort of go by the 10-year return and pick the top funds basis that. But we just spoke about how that's not a great idea. So instead of that, what you need to do is add a filter for 3-year average rolling returns. Highest first. And that's because consistency is important. We want a fund that beats its benchmark across many overlapping windows, not just between two random dates. Now I can read two columns side by side, the rolling return and the AUM. You can see both of them right here. Anything with AUM about 20,000 crore rupees, that's what I flag. I don't reject it, but I just mentally flag it. On the screen alone, you can see some of the funds which have a lot of weight on them. After we do this process, it helps narrow down our search to just about 6 funds. That's when we move to the next step. We filter for the maximum drawdown, how much the fund can fall during a crash. So the maximum drawdown number, the less negative it is, the better it is for us. Now this particular screener doesn't give me the downside capture figure, so for that I basically go to Advisor Coach and check it there. And after you do this process a couple of times, you'll realize that the fund with the highest rolling return may not always have the smallest drawdown. It's this trade-off where the actual decision making comes in about what you pick. Ideally, we want the downside capture to be under 100, meaning it fell less than the index. Plus, you also need to confirm that the manager who built this record is still there. So now we also have to check how often it actually beat the benchmark. For this, check out the rolling returns tool by Advisor Coach. I also like Free FinCal's monthly screener, which looks at the rolling downside capture for more than 400 funds against a Nifty Midcap 150 TRI. But it has a paywall, so you can check it out later. The Free FinCal tool is actually more of a spreadsheet, not a screener like interface. So that's a difference. But the person who made it, Dr. Pattu, whom I've interviewed also, is absolutely epic, and I'm sure that tool is extremely useful. I basically want a fund that beats the index 70 to 80% of 3-year windows in that time period, not just 1 year. Also, a bonus move that a lot of the pros do, take the fund's top 10 holdings and run those stocks through screener.in. That's a stock screener, not just a fund screener. That's just to do a sanity check of the quality of companies you're actually buying. So look for low debt, look for decent ROC, look for real earnings. Also, general rule of thumb is even an expense ratio that you can see in the mutual fund screener, make sure that it's less than 1% for a direct plan. Finally, do the point in time test. Mentally rewind your filters to 2015. Which fund would you have picked then, knowing only what you could have known then? Then you need to check how it did since that time period. See if your analysis checks out. Here, I just want to do a few honest callouts because this method isn't the gospel truth. Firstly, the low downside capture also has a cost. If you take a very defensive fund in your portfolio, it can lag behind badly, especially if there's a wild bull market happening. And some investors just genuinely want that aggression when it comes to returns. So pick the fund basis your risk appetite. Secondly, rolling return data in India is shorter and messier for funds that changed their mandate after SEBI did its 2018 recategorization. So, a 10-year history sometimes belongs to a fund that didn't even exist in the same form. Thirdly, past consistency is the best signal we have, but it's not a guarantee. वो कहते हैं ना, past performance doesn't guarantee future performance. So, please don't forget that. And finally, nothing that I've said here is a recommendation to buy or sell any specific fund. This is just on how to look, not what to pick. So, finally, everyone evaluates mid-cap funds by asking which one climbed the highest. But what you should be looking at is which one falls the least, beats its index most often, and is still small enough to actually do the job. I know this is the most exciting, most volatile category that retail investors love, but I want to ask you something. When you picked your mid-cap fund, were you picking the one that looked like it went to the moon, or was the one built to last? That's all for today. This is Arunima Rao signing off. See you in the next video.